Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Talking Points with KPI. This is the episode number 56. So this is also a part of our ABCA lead up. If you have forgotten, we will be at the ABCA convention on January 7th, presenting at 9:55 a.m. Please make sure to come check out our booth and all of that. We'll have a bunch of cool things going on, podcasts, and just live talking with a bunch of people and a bunch of coaches around the facility. But today, the conversation is with Gary Russo with UpLift. UpLift is a biometric that provides motion capture for KPI athletes, and they will be presenting with us at the expo on January 7th at 9:55 a.m. Gary, thank you for coming, and appreciate you guys talking with us today.
Anytime. Happy to be here.
So let's just get right into it. So open question to Eric or Chase. So high-level athletes need an objective way to evaluate their biometrics and biomechanics and connect the dots between all of their development needs. How did you guys see Gary and UpLift Labs kind of fitting that profile for you guys?
I think the timing was perfect, and there was a built-up relationship already because of Gary's previous position with Blast. So, we've wanted mocap for a while. Even pre-KPI, we kind of looked into it, and obviously, for those in the industry that understand, like, motion capture is extraordinarily expensive. And up until this point, we've dabbled in some other markerless mocaps with not a lot of success. When Gary sent me a message saying he wanted to talk, I was like, okay, one, I knew the name, and he had done a great job with Blast, and then we obviously have a great relationship with Blast. So that helped, kind of, I guess, build some trust right away. And then two, was like, all right, we want this. And let's look into this. And Gary gave us a couple of presentations. We did like the product. We like the direction they're going, especially with how they're going to connect the dots between movement screens and skill, eventually. And that's our jam. Like, that's what we do. And I was really honest with Gary, and I said, hey, like, we've spent an insane amount of money on technology the last couple of years, and we hired a financial guy, and he's like, he's begging me to pump the brakes. Gary stayed on it, and then we, internally we met and said, like, hey, like, we can monetize this. And to be honest, we actually already have. We've been offering it as upgrades for some of our general assessments, and people are definitely going in on that. And then we also wanted to be an early adopter to what UpLift is doing. Like, we wanted to get in early with what they're doing because their plans are pretty impressive. And we just thought, like, all right, let's do one more purchase in 2022 and get in with UpLift so we can kind of really dominate this going into next summer, where we really think that this could be a pretty awesome thing.
No, absolutely. And so, Gary, to that point, Eric mentioned your history with Blast, but please feel free to just kind of introduce yourself and talk about what you've been doing with the metric space.
Yeah. So, Eric, appreciate the kind words and intro. I was formerly at Blast Motion. Obviously, everyone's familiar, I'm sure, with them by now. The sensor-based technology that you use with hitting analysis, where we simplified and now gamified. It sounds like they've done hitting analysis, which is cool to see. And now with UpLift, and also served time prior to being in sports tech and the agency space, still oversee technology as well for that. Where I really am passionate about bringing high-level tech to the highest level athletes and just bringing objective data into the development process. For when I played, I didn't have access to that, and as a player, I really would have valued that. And so, seeing what tech has done for the game of baseball and players when used the right way, gets me really fired up.
Yeah, so Chase, to that point, right? Coaches that do not validate their skill teachings with technology and data are prescribed drills and exercises that do not serve the athlete's basic individual needs because they haven't been, like we talked about, assessed and made sure that these kids are working on what they need to work on. How have you seen UpLift Labs and the mocap kind of integrate themselves into the individualized skill side of things for your side of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, we do so much on the physical side to get to know each individual hitter, right? And then being able to see it in action and see, like, what's actually happening in their swing, like anything that's going to help me understand my hitters better, like I'm all about, right? Any way that I can help validate the drill set that I am individualizing for these hitters, and it helps out in all facets, and realistically, it makes it easy to do. And that's kind of that's the idea behind UpLift. That's what we want to use it for, is to help validate kind of what we're doing and also see things that the eye can't, right? And be able to understand where I can also get more out of our high level guys, just as much as our low level guys.
And so to kind of piggyback off that question, how have you seen the athletes kind of take a liking to understanding when and where body position should be, and they can actually see it, like you talked about, and being able to gamify that for them? How have you seen them come to like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like the visual side of things is baseball players just inherently are super visual, right? And so being able to get their motion capture and being able to show them like almost outside of themselves with the 3D model to show how these things are affecting their swing, tying it to the problem that's already individualized to them just makes it easier. A lot of times the gap when we're talking about getting high level guys to a higher level, it's so small, and they need to understand the problem that we're trying to solve, and that's where UpLift kind of bridges that gap, right? It's like I can show you, I can really dig deep and get you to really understand what we're working on and how this is helping you, and then the results will speak for themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, KPI, like Eric has mentioned, is starting to integrate motion capture into all of the areas of development, and we deliver a comprehensive system using UpLift motion capture. But Eric, how have you seen like the difficulty and expense to invest in a motion capture system that most athletes don't really, or coaches, to your point, really want to buy into it?
Well, really what I think Uplift has done is really bridge the gap between true motion capture and then being affordable. And when we started to look into motion capture a couple of years ago, it was 6 figures, right? That's like you need $100,000 to even start that conversation. And it's like, well, we're a new business, we're a startup, that doesn't necessarily fit. We need to buy these other things too. And then some of the other markerless, app-based, software-based platforms out there, they just weren't accurate enough, and they were buggy, and like we just couldn't we couldn't use them because they weren't good enough, just flat out. And so really what Uplift has done is like, hey, like they've validated their, and Gary can speak to this better than I can, but they've validated their biomechanics against high level markered systems, and they're within a very small deviation of those. And so that was a big one for us. It's like, we're so precise here in what we do. Like we didn't want anything that wasn't going to be accurate. And we actually felt our previous version of what we were working on with Markerless was not accurate. Like we thought it internally, like, hey, this doesn't seem right, And so Uplift has been able to bridge that gap and provide something that is pretty damn accurate at a price point that's digestible for a business like us that is a startup.
Absolutely. And so Gary, I just touched a little bit on that. I mean, obviously coming from Uplift, kind of give your side of how either you thought the partnership was going to go or either where you think it is now.
Yeah, great question. I think, starting out and kind of working backwards to Eric's point, we primarily started off serving Major League Baseball teams. And for them, data accuracy is the most important thing. Reliability is the most important thing, knowing that what they're measuring, they're getting the same output every time and that it is accurate. So when they are making interventions with the athlete, they know it's real and they know that, what they're using is valid. So we've done multiple comparisons. We really, as a 2-camera system, really hang our hat on accuracy and reliability for a motion capture company in the mobile space. That's something we really constantly are trying to improve as well. We're always investing in making the setup easier, making sure data is just consistent, making sure what you're capturing is real. So when you do apply it to the athlete, it's being used the right way. So obviously branching away from Major League Baseball, you're looking for high level users that understand the importance of it, but also can apply the tool. And that's really where KPI came into the fold, knowing Eric, knowing the background of the facility. We wanted early on, as we branched out from Major League Baseball, to find the right partners in the academy space to know that it was being used the right way. So we could also get feedback as a company to improve the product and improve the experience. So moving forward, understanding the KPI's ability to really bridge that gap between performance and skill development and how they impact each other, something we're really excited about as a company and something we've obviously already started to work on with you all and some of the things you're doing on the assessment side. So we can really inform a coach, okay, yes, this is an opportunity for skill development, or hey, probably a performance question first to really understand how the athlete's moving, to unlock that ability to then go to the coach on the skill side and improve that piece. So moving forward, we're really, really excited about the partnership with KPI in that aspect.
Love to hear it. And we're very excited to have the partnership with you as well. So Chase, to that point, right, you talked about it before, but we have the most high level athletes training at KPI. And so we need to give them the best developmental tools in the industry. And a really good example I can give kind of off the top of my head, right? You talked about once they get to that high level, the minuscule error situation just kind of becomes so abundant, right? And I have this great example for pitchers, but going from 87 to 90, is a lot easier than going from 94 to 95, just because of the degree and matter of which you're putting your body through. Talk about how motion capture either gives them that opportunity to see where they can do that, or just in general, how you've seen the athletes kind of take a liking to progressing in that little bit.
Yeah, it's the concepts at a high level that we already see, and you're just trying to see peaks of it with these young guys that are very good, right? You're trying to see like, oh, I can see a resemblance of what's happening at a higher level, and I can measure it, right? And so when we're trying to get these small little changes, I mean, it's like to Gary's point earlier, tech is only as good as you use it, right? Or as the person using it, right? So it depends, they don't get all the information necessarily, right? But it allows me to make the informed decision to know that this is not an opinion-based coaching model, right? I'm seeing something that I'm actually able to integrate to get these guys actually have that, the little push that they need to get from, to your point, it's like, and you've been with me on the hitting side, it's like 90 to 95 can happen, but 95 to 100 EV with these young kids, like it's a whole nother monster, and these little things matter. And so being able to see this over and over again with different environments is what really allowed us to maximize uplift, where we're going to do velocity, we're going to do off speed, we're going to do different bats. And I want to see how you move in all these scenarios to be able to truly understand how to get that next step for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the open question to kind of everybody, but like athletes need to be able to seek our developmental programs that invest in the best technology and validate their training using objective data. Now, to that point, why do you guys think that's so important?
Go ahead, Gary. That's your jam.
Yeah, I think for any athlete, whether your goal is to play in the big leagues, to play collegiate baseball at the highest level, every athlete steps on the field with the desire to play to their fullest potential. What that looks like and what that is obviously different for every player, but there's no reason to not want to maximize your abilities and achieve your fullest potential. So you need the tools, you need the people in your corner that can help you analyze this information and use this information to give yourself the best chance of reaching that ceiling, so that you're not going out there blind or blindfolded, just wondering, okay, did everything I just do the last 4 months really matter and really help me? Ask yourself how you know that. Do you have data? Do you have a plan? Do you have a reassessment that has shown you improvement in certain areas that you truly believe will help you as a player? So I think it's incredibly important for any player to want to achieve their fullest potential. The highest level players, obviously this matters, but it should matter to anyone, because you're going to enjoy the experience a lot more when you're playing to your best ability than if you're leaving things on the table and not pursuing avenues to achieve that. So I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
I want to piggyback on that real quick, because as something like mocap and as the technology trickles down from the major league levels to what theoretically, right? Like there's 16-year-olds getting on mocap in our facility, right? As these things continue to happen, and this isn't going away, like this is going to continue to permeate the space. You either are doing these things or you're being left behind. It's really kind of like, that's how it is. So if you're a D1 commit that wants to be ready to play in the SEC, and someone's doing this and you're not, there's gonna be gaps that are created, and we see it at the major league level. The gap between the organizations that are using high level technology and data versus ones that aren't. And then you're going to start seeing that gap happen in the development space where we are, and we see it in our area, right? Like that's why we've established ourselves so quickly, is because we can create that gap very quickly with the technology and the data driven approach.
No, absolutely. And so, Eric, I want to kind of touch on, we talked about it in prior podcasts, but we do have this testing period that we run all of our new technology through to see if that it would work with our systems. I would just like to ask you, what was that point in time where you said, okay, this could actually work, and I want to start integrating this into our KPI systems?
Gary came to the facility and really kind of sat down with us, and I thought that was important. He doesn't live in California, so he decided to make a little special trip and stop by and check our place out. So I think that was a big one. And then just seeing them use it and just knowing it's a 2-camera system, and instead of kind of some of the other ones we've been through, was really important. Like we already had what we needed. We didn't need to go buy anything else. Like we had it all here already.
Yeah.
And then, if I'm being flat out honest, the kicker and the selling point was that they're going to do movement screens with UpLift. And for us, it's like, if we can take an objective data and a movement screen and objective data on this hitting and pitching side, like that's a game changer for us. And, we've been trying to find a product that can that can objectify the movement screen that we do already, and UpLift is going to be able to do that in the near future. And we think that we can basically put nitrous into our already really good system and be able to kind of use 100% objective data across the board in here.
Absolutely. And so there's kind of, for those of you listening and watching on YouTube, there's kind of been an aspiring theme throughout this ABCA lead up, but right, like athletes' careers are at stake, right? We want to make sure that developmental process is in the best hands for the athlete, right? We talked about this on previous podcasts on talking points, but just the fact that we need to take the ego away from the coach. It's not about him. It's not about who does or tells what the athlete what to do. It's about how they can move and how they perform in their development. Eric, touch a little bit how KPI has provided the best systems and validation in the industry just for those athletes.
Well, our system is the ultimate check and balance, and UpLift is really helping us take that to the next level. Like how we program based on the assessment of what the data tells us, and then how do we make sure it's working? I think a lot of people are starting to get here where they're using tech and data and they're kind of making programs. We're at the point where we're validating everything with data. So we take the data on the front end and then we use data on the back end to make sure it's working. And if it's not working, then we know right away and we make adjustments right away and then we validate it again. And so, UpLift is helping us do that now. And like Chase said, it's right at this moment in time, more geared towards our high level guys just because they need it more. And it's harder to squeeze more juice out of them, at that level. But we definitely see as we get more comfortable with the product, using it on a little bit more of a wider scale, probably next summer, when we kind of just all hell breaks loose here in the summer. And so we plan on having that as a setup, and we want to be using UpLift all day.
Absolutely. So Gary, hearing that KPI is using UpLift, right, motion capture, we will give athletes an in-depth look under the hood and allow them a new insight into their dreams and making that become a reality. How did you, right, and I want to just kind of last question before we wrap things up, but how did you see this partnership going, and where do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, I think Eric hit it all on the head. Going to the facility and seeing and feeling in person. I mean, I think I walked in immediately, Eric, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. It's the moment you first open the door, there's a wow moment already. Just seeing the environment, seeing the athletes that are training there, meeting with Eric, hearing everyone's story that's, underneath him and that's at KPI, and their passion for development, their passion for just the people, let alone the technology, was super exciting for us. And again, I think from a technology standpoint, this is a little bit more of a new frontier in terms of baseball. Like there's a lot of people that have been looking at output, and by output, I mean, how hard do you throw or how hard do you hit the ball? I'm going to steal this from a coach because this is not smart enough to think of this on my own, but he said consistency and performance lies within efficiency. And what biomechanics is doing is allowing you to measure how efficient are you in getting that output. Because you could have two guys that throw 95 miles an hour, and that's great. And if one's a lot more efficient than the other, there's less risk he's getting hurt, and there's probably a better chance he's more consistent. Jacob deGrom throws 100 miles an hour, and everyone loves to talk about him. There's a lot of guys that throw 100 miles an hour. It's just beautiful and efficient when he throws a baseball, and he can do it a very long time for that reason. So I think looking at that, knowing KPIs, digging into this, not just, hey, we're going to make you throw harder or we're going to make you hit harder, but no, we're going to improve your efficiency, improve your performance, minimize risk for injury. That's really exciting because they truly are looking, you all truly are looking at both sides of the coin. So if you're an athlete, I'm not just going to go here and throw harder and go out to school in the spring and have a 7 ERA because I walked the house. I'm going to come in, I'm going to throw harder, I'm going to be more efficient, I'm going to feel really good doing it. And everything about my development is going to be taken care of. So I think moving forward, that's only going to get better as we bring in the movement screen, bring in the movement assessment to complement what you're doing on the skill development side and what you're capturing in the hitting and pitching space to really bring it, full circle and help you all really get a holistic view from an objective standpoint of what the athlete's doing and how they're moving.
Absolutely. I don't think any of us could have said it any better. Thank you very much for the kind words, Gary. Thank you guys very much for listening. This has been Talking Points with KPI, episode number 55. Once again, this is a lead-up series to our ABCA convention. We will be on stage at ABCA January 7th at 9:55 a.m. Gary, everybody at Blast, all the people will be with us in partnership. So please make sure to come out. There's going to be a bunch more. We're going to have podcasts. We'll do live sittings. Please make sure to come check out our booth. Thank you guys very much for watching. Follow us on all social medias on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Please also go follow UpLift Labs on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great day.